In international politics, a single photograph can speak volumes. These images, often carefully orchestrated, are more than just snapshots. They are powerful tools of diplomacy, shaping perceptions and sending subtle messages to audiences around the world. On September 1, 2025, at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin, China, the world saw Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Chinese President Xi Jinping standing together. This gathering was not just a routine diplomatic event, but a moment loaded with symbolism and intent. The striking image of Modi and Putin holding hands with Xi beside them sent a clear message of unity. It was a visual declaration that these leaders, representing some of the world's most influential nations, were willing to present a united front on the global stage, despite their own differences and competing interests. This moment followed a similar display at the BRICS summit in Brazil just weeks earlier, where these leaders discussed their shared concerns about American dominance. Their repeated appearances together signaled a growing alignment, as they sought to challenge the existing world order and assert their own influence in international affairs. Such carefully staged optics are meant to signal strength and emerging power centers, especially to the United States. These photo ops are designed to capture the attention of the global media, projecting confidence and solidarity to both allies and rivals. But beneath the surface, the story is far more complex than a single photo suggests. Behind closed doors, negotiations are often tense, alliances are fragile, and the interests of each nation can diverge sharply. The images we see are just the tip of the iceberg, concealing the intricate and sometimes uneasy realities of international diplomacy. The images of Modi, Putin, and Xi standing side by side at a major summit sent shockwaves through Washington, instantly sparking anxiety among U.S. officials and analysts. For decades, the United States has kept a close eye on the evolving relationships between these global powers, but seeing the leaders of India, Russia, and China together in such a public display of unity was a stark reminder of shifting alliances on the world stage. The U.S. has long viewed China and Russia as its primary strategic rivals, often at odds with American interests around the globe. But the idea of India, a country the U.S. has courted as a key partner in Asia, appearing to align more closely with these rivals, is deeply unsettling for policymakers in Washington. It raises questions about the future of U.S. influence in the region, and the reliability of its alliances. President Trump's dramatic social media reaction, suggesting the U.S. had lost both India and Russia to China, captured this unease and quickly went viral. His comments reflected a broader fear that America's global standing could be eroding and that its traditional partners might be slipping away. China and Russia have a long history of coordinating to counter U.S. interests, both politically and economically. Now, India's growing ties with Moscow, especially through a surge in Russian oil imports since the Ukraine war, are adding to American concerns. These economic links are seen as a sign that India may be drifting away from the Western camp, at least on some key issues. The ongoing war in Ukraine has only heightened these suspicions. India's refusal to join Western sanctions against Russia, despite pressure from the US and Europe, is seen by some as a signal that a new anti-US coalition could be forming, one that challenges the existing world order. For US strategists, the prospect of India aligning more closely with China and Russia is not just a diplomatic headache, it could fundamentally shift the global balance of power. Such a realignment would have far-reaching consequences for security, trade, and America's ability to shape international events. But is India truly joining an anti-American bloc, or is it simply pursuing its own national interests in a complex and changing world? The answer is more complicated than it might seem, and it's a question that US leaders are watching more closely than ever before. India's foreign policy is rooted in strategic autonomy, refusing to be tied to any single alliance. Today this has evolved into multi-alignment, where India partners with different countries on different issues. India works with the US, Japan, and Australia in the Quad, while also engaging with China and Russia in BRICS and the SCO. For India, this isn't contradiction, it's strategy. India's leaders believe flexibility is essential for a country of its size and complexity. When Modi stands with Putin and Xi, he's not abandoning the West but demonstrating India's independence. This balancing act is difficult, but India sees it as its greatest strength. Behind the summit smiles, economic realities drive India's actions. India's trade deficit with China hit a record $99 billion, and with Russia, $59 billion. mostly due to oil imports. India openly pushes China to open its markets and seeks fairer trade within BRICS. Meanwhile, US tariffs of up to 50% on Indian goods have strained relations, affecting $87 billion in exports. These economic pressures push India to diversify its partnerships, even as it faces challenges from both East and West. India's foreign policy is as much about economic survival as it is about geopolitics. Navigating these trade tensions is a matter of necessity, not ideology. China, Russia, and India may share BRICS membership, but beneath the surface, their ambitions and strategies diverge sharply. While they stand together on the global stage, their visions for the future of BRICS and the world are far from aligned. For China and Russia, BRICS is more than just an economic alliance. It's a strategic tool to challenge US dominance, reshape global power structures, and promote a multipolar world where Western influence is diminished. These two countries use international forums like BRICS to push back against Western policies, amplify their own voices, and legitimize their models of governance, often positioning themselves as alternatives to the liberal democratic order. India, however, approaches BRICS from a different angle. For New Delhi, the group is primarily an economic platform, a way to boost trade, attract investment, and address its persistent trade deficits, especially with China, its largest trading partner in the bloc. While India does share some concerns about the concentration of US power, it is careful to avoid being drawn into an explicitly anti-Western alliance. Instead, India seeks to balance its relationships, maintaining strong ties with the West, even as it engages with BRICS. India's vision is to emerge as a leading global power in its own right, not as a junior partner in a China-led order, but as an independent force shaping the international system. So, while summit photos may project unity, they often mask deep differences in priorities, ambitions, and the very purpose of BRICS itself. Despite the optics, India is not abandoning its partnership with the United States. India practices strategic hedging, strengthening ties with many powers but keeping the US as an indispensable partner. The US-India relationship is vital, from technology and defense to a shared interest in a stable Indo-Pacific. Modi's public reassurances to President Trump after the summit were a deliberate signal of continued commitment. India's approach is to balance relationships, not choose sides. The future will be defined by complex, overlapping partnerships, not simple blocks. India's goal is to be strong and independent, maintaining good relations with all major powers.